Hey, Gary, how are things?
Things are great, but I crushed my mortgage payment with owning without even leaving my couch. I got a no closing cost refi at a great low rate, and owning did it all in less than 3 weeks. It was easy, no muss, no fuss.
Be like Gary. Call Owning at 855-5-OWNING and crush your mortgage payment with today's 15-year fixed refi at 1.875% rated APR with no closing costs. None. Zero. Even if you've refinanced recently, call 855-5-OWNING and let us crush your monthly payment even more. That's 855-5-OWNING or log on to owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval. Call 833-852-6464 for terms and conditions.
You can crush it too with a 15-year fixed 1.875% rated APR with absolutely no closing cost.
All right, let's clear this garage. Start a pile here for donations, one over here for recycling, and one more over here for trash. Hang on, what are you doing?
Recycling?
We may need that paint one day, and that can't be recycled.
First, this can looks older than me. And second, paintcare.org says you can.
Paintcare.org. Let me see. Oh, and there's a drop-off site close by. And it's free? Nice.
Dad, no.
The Jeff Calkins Show.
Gary Parrish, host of the GP show from 4 to 6 every single day. Also national college basketball columnist, commentator, etc. at CBS. A multiple Emmy-winning personality, rising star in the field of meteorology. And his bracket is up. GP, what's your philosophy of filling out a bracket? A, for the public, which you've done now, but B, like if you were entering a bracket with the intention of trying to win it, like what's your bracket? What do you suggest as a bracket philosophy? And are those different, by the way?
I don't have a philosophy. I'm required as an employee of CBS Sports to get the bracket to them within 10 minutes of it being published, so that it can be reproduced and shared with the world. So my philosophy, honestly, is the same philosophy I have with everything else between now and the national championship game. Just get it done.
But look, come on. Here's the thing. Okay, well, let me step back then. If you're trying to win the damn thing, can you go chalk? Do you have to include upsets? What's your, what do you think you got to do there? Do you got to pick some 5-12s? Or, so your Final Four is Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Alabama. You got 3 1s in there, right? And so what? Why? And obviously, because you think they're the best teams. But if you're trying to win a bracket, don't you have to take some risks?
I do think you have to take risks early on, and not 16s over 1s or 15 over 2s, because the 16s are gone after one game, and if miracles happen and they upset the one, they're gone after 2 games. 16s aren't going to get into the round of the Sweet 16. So I do think history shows that you should probably take a 12 over a 5, maybe even 2 12s over 5, and you can take risk and predict upsets early. But I believe that by the end of it, your Final Four needs to be, for the most part, teams that have shown themselves to be, legitimate Final Four caliber teams. I've never won a bracket contest in my whole life. And the reason is because I watch this stuff every day. I rank teams every morning. And then somebody puts a bracket in front of you. And how am I supposed to pick a team that I know is not as good as the other team? It just runs counter to every...
You never would have picked Villanova to beat Georgetown in a million years, way back when.
In a bazillion years, right. Yeah. Right. So, I watch this stuff every day. I know all the computer numbers. I rank them every morning, and then a bracket's put in my possession, and I'm supposed to pick somebody that I know, not that I think, but that I know is not as good as this other team. It doesn't make any sense. But if you don't do that in certain places, especially early on, your bracket's going to get bombed because upsets happen in this event. It's a bit of a cliche, but we're not playing 7-game series. It's a series of 40-minute basketball games that can be decided by foul trouble, by injuries, by hot shooting, by, as we know, missed free throws. Like a little bit. This thing is unpredictable, which is why different companies will offer you $2 million if you can predict a perfect bracket. You want to know why they do that? Because you can't do it.
Yeah, no, you can't do it. It's interesting that it's funny. Like, there's so many brackets filled out, right? I don't know how many billions of brackets are filled out, but like mathematically, people win the lottery. Like there are crazy things that like. It is funny. You think there should some way accidentally someday be a perfect bracket, but there never will be. There just won't ever be a perfect bracket. Warren Buffett, by the way, it's interesting at his company this year. Because Warren Buffett has famously, offered $1 million if you can. I don't know if that's still available right now, but he offers $100,000 to the person at his company that goes the longest without a loss, and there will be a winner of that. Like, someone will go the longest without a loss, and then another $1 million if they can in the company if you can get all the first round right. So I don't know. Like okay, I have some specific questions, GP. You Gonzaga. Let's start with Gonzaga. Is this a year where you're stupid to pick anyone but Gonzaga as a national champion?
No, you're not stupid to pick anybody other than Gonzaga, but Gonzaga is the favorite.
But aren't they a heavier favorite than usual?
Yes. The best adjusted efficiency margin, which is, when you take offensive efficiency numbers and take defensive efficiency numbers and you do the math on that and you get an adjusted efficiency margin, the best ever, at least in the KenPom era, which dates back to the 2001-2002 season, is Kentucky in 2015. That's the team that had Karl Anthony Towns, had Devin Booker, and then lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. They went 38-1. And their adjusted efficiency margin was plus 36.91. Gonzaga right now is at plus 38.05. This is not just a good college basketball team. It's not just the best team in the country this season. It is a historically great college basketball team. In the KenPom era, according to the computers, the best college basketball team we've ever seen. They are number 1 in offensive efficiency. They are number 10 in defensive efficiency. They had the best effective field goal percentage in the country, best 2-point field goal percentage in the country. And this isn't just a team, because this is where you can get hung up a little bit sometimes. This is not just a team that's run through the West Coast Conference. They beat Iowa by double digits. They beat Kansas by double digits. They beat Virginia by double digits. They ran through everybody they played. This is not just a team that's got really good college players. They've got 2 players who are projected to go in the top 10 of the NBA draft, Jalen Suggs and Corey Kispert. No other team in the country has that. Gonzaga isn't just the best college basketball team. It's the most talented college basketball team. And they have performed brilliantly all season. It's a single elimination tournament. So, if somebody offered you the field or Gonzaga, you should take the field. That would be smart. But if you could only pick one team, then Gonzaga is quite clearly the team to pick. It doesn't guarantee anything, but they are among the most significant favorites we have seen in this event in my adult life.
You picked two upsets in the 5-12, UCSB over Creighton, Georgetown over Colorado. Did not pick one that a lot of people are picking, which is Winthrop over Villanova. Villanova obviously has the injury issue. What's your thought on the 5-12s?
I could see Villanova losing to Winthrop. We had Jay Wright on CBS Sports Network on Sunday night, and he acknowledges, like, Jay is so. It's interesting when you see guys win multiple national titles, how relaxed they get.
Right.
Like, he's very secure and comfortable in his own skin. And I asked him, about the loss of Colin Gillespie. They lost their point guard and their leader and their second leading scorer and their leading assist man. He's everything. And he was like, we're not the same team. We're not going to be the same team. Like, we're still good. I'm not worried that we went 0-2 without him because, like, it was 0-2, 2 losses by a total of 5 points maybe, or maybe 3 points. And he was like, so, like, if we get a stop or make a shot, then we're 2-0 without Colin Gillespie. And people are talking differently about us. He said, so I'm not that concerned, like that we can't beat anybody, but we're not the same team. And if you can take that with you into the bracket, that's perfect setup for a 12-5 situation. In fact, Jay said, I know that people are going to be picking against us in this 12-5 game, because people got to pick 12-5s, and he said, I understand. We look like the perfect team to pick against in this situation. So I took all that to sort of, they still got Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. They still got great players. I think they'll get by Winthrop, but I don't think they'll go anywhere close to where we thought they were going to go in the preseason, because in the preseason they look like a possible, if not likely, Final Four team. On the other 12-5s, they're on the left side of the bracket, and listen, you got to take some somewhere. This happens almost every year, and Creighton is a team. Like I think you can say about both of the fives that I got being upset similar things. Creighton is a team that's had strong computer numbers all season. They're obviously good. If you made them play UC Santa Barbara 10 times, they'd probably win 7 or 8 of those games. But again, it's just a 40-minute game. It's one game. And Creighton has 3 quadrant 3 losses this season, which means they've lost to teams like UC Santa Barbara multiple times. So I don't think it's crazy. In fact, it's not crazy to think that they can do it again. And then the other one is Georgetown over Colorado. Colorado just got beat in the Pac-12 tournament title game by a bid stealer in Oregon State. Colorado has lost, I believe, also 3 games in quadrant 3. They've lost to teams like Georgetown before, so it's not crazy to think they could lose to Georgetown in this event. What you asked earlier for, like, a philosophy when it comes to bracketing, and this also underlines why I'm not great at that part. But I will say this: I try not to ever ask teams to do something they haven't done. So, like, if you've never beaten a team like this team, I'm not going to expect you to beat a team like that team. And if you've never lost to a team like this team, I'm going to assume you're going to be able to get past this thing. With Colorado and Creighton, those 5 seeds, they have both lost multiple times to teams that are similar, at least in terms of how you would rank them in the country. They both lost to teams similar to the ones that they're going to be playing in the first round, which suggests to me that they could reasonably lose again.
Quick thoughts on Arkansas, Tennessee, and someone asked me to ask you about West Virginia.
I love Arkansas. Famously at this point, they haven't been back to the Sweet 16 since 1996, which is just incredible. Like, if you go back to the early 90s, they went to multiple national championship games. I mean, multiple Final Fours, 2 national championship games, won the title. They were in the Sweet 16 6 out of 7 years. And if I would have told you in 1996 when they went to the Sweet 16 that, hey, they won't be back until at least 2021, that would not have made any sense whatsoever. It would be like somebody telling you right now that Gonzaga won't get back to the Sweet 16 until 2046. You'd be like, what? How's that going to happen? But that is what Arkansas is. Now, I say all that to say that it's changing. I under Musselman, if he stays there, and I think probably this season, he's got a team that's been rocking and rolling since Justin Smith got back and got healthy. They're not the best team in the SEC. I think that's Alabama, but it's a team that can compete for a Final Four, and I think it's a team that you could project in the Sweet 16, which will break that streak that's been there far too long. With Tennessee, they've got all of the same pieces that made me think they could be a Final Four team in the preseason, but they just haven't been great this season. John Fulkerson is obviously banged up right now, and it's unclear whether he'll be able to play in the SEC tournament. But even with him, they've just been okay all year. Now, okay is, you have to understand what that means when I'm talking about them. They've been top 25 all year, or top 30, top 35, but they haven't been the legitimate contender that I assumed they would be. I think they get past Oregon State And, I could even see them going to a Sweet 16, although I actually have them losing to Oklahoma State in the round of 32. But they just haven't lived up to expectations for whatever reason. I think some of it is that the five-star freshmen have been great in moments, but not consistently great. And you need them to be consistently great for Tennessee to be as awesome as it was supposed to be. With West Virginia, there was a time where it looked like they had a path to maybe a 1 seed, and that tailed off pretty significantly late. So they end up with a 3 seed. I've got them going, I believe, to the Sweet 16, but eventually they run into Houston, at least in my bracket, and I don't think they're better than Houston. They're similar to Houston in the sense that if I were putting teams in tiers, I would put West Virginia and Houston, in close tiers, even though Houston is significantly better in most of the computers. But this is a team that, again, they're 1-3 and in their past 4 games. They are what they are. I won't be shocked if they make the Final Four, but I'd be somewhat surprised by it. I think this is probably a team that wins a game and gets moved. At most, wins 2 and gets moved.
Now, it's Chris Harrington from the Daily Memphian on the Grizzlies and beyond. Every weekday around 10 a.m.
Chris Harrington joins me now. Chris, what are we listening to?
That is, of course, Born Under a Bad Sign. Some Memphis music from Albert King. Heard you and Jeffrey talk a little bit about whether Penny Hardaway had been unlucky or not, so I was sending that out to Penny.
What'd you make of the Grizzlies last night?
I think it was yesterday or whatever day it was. It's all starting to run together, and it's going to get worse. You were talking about how the Oklahoma game was a dispiriting loss. I'd say last night was a pretty dispiriting loss.
What would one be dispirited about in particular?
If you watch the game, you watch, a 20-point loss. It wasn't a very uplifting experience watching the game if you were watching it from a Grizzlies perspective. So I would say that. In some ways, it's less isolated. If you isolate it, it's less concerning or less whatever than the Oklahoma game. And it really sort of underscores, the problem of letting one slip away like you did in Oklahoma City.
Right. Because
if, losing on the second night of a back-to-back on the road against a really good team like Phoenix is not that big of a deal if it's not, your third loss in a row. If you won the game before and then you lose that game, it doesn't bother you as much. And it's just, it sort of shows the risk of letting games slip away like the one against Oklahoma City, because then you can look up and find yourself in a losing streak pretty quick.
Right. And these are gonna pile up awfully fast. Okay, I was really late to you, and I want to get to some other things, and so I'm going to do that. The Oscar nominations are out from yesterday, so let me just go through some of the big ones. And do you like the fact that there's so many now more nominated, or do you prefer it when there was just 4?
Well, 5 is what was the standard. I'm fine with it being the way it's set up now. It's minimum of 5, maximum of 10, and the number it ends up being is based on whether you clear a certain threshold and the vote total. And so I'm fine with having the 5 to 10 range on Best Picture. I wouldn't want to expand it like in every category like that. Right. But for Best Picture, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Best Picture nominees are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Manira, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Your thoughts?
The Father is the only one I have not seen. But I don't really have a lot of interest in seeing it, although maybe I'll try to be a completist. I assume, I haven't looked at any of the prognostication stuff. I assume Nomadland is the favorite, although Mank is the leading in nominations. I think Nomadland is the best movie out of that bunch. It's gotten a little pushback, partly, I think, honestly, and partly just the reflexivity of, if something becomes the favorite, you got to throw spitballs at it. But I thought Nomadland was the best movie that came out last year, and so I will not be I will not be coaxed into rooting against it because it's a favorite. I think it is the best movie of the year.
What's the pushback? What's the nature of the pushback?
Well, part of it is just, not everyone doesn't have to like everything,
right.
So people are allowed to not like
right.
things.
Is there a thematic commonality? Are people? Yes.
I think there's a couple things that are. I think it's I mean, there's been some stuff about the director who I gather maybe is from some wealthy family or something. I don't personally just care about that at all. Like, I care about the movie itself. And then there's some stuff about, you know, is it the level of social? Is it trying to be like a broad, like, you know, message movie, social commentary? And if it is it really succeeding in that way?
Right.
And so, you know, there's stuff there. But I think it's the best movie of the year. But it's also, like, worth pointing out that this is sort of a down year for obvious reasons in terms of the movie business.
Right. Best actor, Riz Ahmed from Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins, The Father, Gary Oldman, Mank, and Stephen Yeun, Minari.
I'm guessing Boseman is considered the favorite, although I don't know that. When in my little critics group, I voted for Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal, I believe, as Best Actor.
Best Actress, Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day, The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand, Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman.
Yeah, I've only seen 3 of those. I haven't seen the Billie Holiday movie, which I want to see, and I haven't seen Pieces of a Woman just because it's a really depressing subject. I'm not really eager to watch the movie about the woman dealing with the loss of her child, honestly. Right. I assume Frances McDormand is the favorite there. That's who I would vote for, although Viola Davis is really good in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I think overall has been a little underrated. And so I'd be totally happy to see Viola Davis win.
How many of these, but you say it's a down year for obvious reasons. Is the obvious reasons that they weren't as many made, there weren't as many released? Obviously, it has been a blow to the industry. But how is that reflected in the quality of the movies that are out there?
A lot of movies pulled back. Movies that would have been a lot of movies, both big commercial and more Oscar kind of stuff, that would have been released last year decided to take the year off. They basically pulled movies off the release slate to save them for 2022.
I see.
And so the pool of movies is substantial. It's not just that the box office is down. It's that the pool of movies themselves was different and smaller than it would have been otherwise.
And taking the Best Picture nominees, are they all in theaters? Like The Trial of the Chicago 7 is only streaming, isn't it? Or is it?
The Trial of Chicago 7 had a brief theatrical release, but it's primarily a Netflix movie. Nomadland was a primarily, at least initially, had a full theatrical release, and then is now on Hulu. It may still be in Memphis theaters as well, but it's also on Hulu. So most, if not all of those movies, The Father may not be on a streaming service, I'm not sure, but most, if not all of the movies that were named Best Picture are now on streaming services.
And going forward, post-pandemic, what do we think that's going to look like? Yeah.
I mean, people who run Hollywood can't answer that question. And so I can't answer it. I think people think it's going to look a lot different. I've talked to Craig Brewer about this a bunch, the experience he had of directing a movie they thought was going to be a wide release Christmas Day in theaters and then ended up getting sold to Amazon Prime for $100 and something million. He thinks it's going to change dramatically in terms of limiting theatrical experience and more stuff going to streaming. I really don't know. I mean, but the fact is, a lot of what would have been the bigger movies last year, the James Bond movie and some of that stuff, did get held. They did not. I mean, Coming to America sold to Amazon, but a lot of movies that could have, Wonder Woman in 1984 with HBO Max, and so it's sort of a mix. But there's lots of big stuff that studios decided we can't make the money we need to make on streaming. We need to do it in theaters, and they waited on it. And those movies will come out in theaters this year. So I think it's a little fuzzy. Clearly, things are trending towards more streaming and more home viewing, but I'm not ready to write off the theatrical experience.
And then finally, Downtown Memphis Commission, Paul Young was selected to head the Downtown Memphis Commission. He's a Memphian. Do you know Paul Young? And what exactly do they do? What does the Downtown Memphis Commission do?
I do know Paul Young. Not super well. We're not like buddies or anything,
right.
But I know him. I've interviewed him for stories. I've talked to him both on and off record, about stuff in the past. I've always been extremely impressed with Paul Young. I think it seems, from what I know and from people I know who know him even better than I do, it seems to be a perfect hire. It seems like a great move by the Downtown Memphis Commission. I think very highly of him. The DMC, it's a little. I mean, I haven't written about the organization to the point that I've totally studied like how it works, but I think downtown business owners and downtown stakeholders are sort of members of the group, and they pay dues and whatever, and so the budget comes from that. And it's both an advocacy group for downtown and also a management group for a lot of downtown. And like the whole Bill Street stuff about all the policies on Bill Street, that was stuff that DMC was sort of managing, right? And so, I think a lot of stuff around the riverfront and stuff like that, DMC is involved in. Obviously, they're involved in the stuff right now in terms of this 100 North Main building and trying to sell that. And so it's a little murky. It's one of these quasi-public-private things. It can be a little hard to sort out. But there's a lot of it's basically a organization of downtown stakeholders that has a lot of development and management impact on things that happen downtown.
Chris, thanks very much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you more tomorrow. That is Chris Harrington from the Daily Memphian.
The Jeff Calkins Show. Listen live weekdays from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. on 92.9 FM ESPN, Memphis' sports station.